In a strange way, he did me a big favor.
How?
He made me realize the complete hypocrisy of killing only the guilty. There's no distinction between guilty and innocent blood. The truth is, we are the guilty.
Welcome back, friends.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. I'm going to do that again because Matt slurped his beer halfway through. Welcome back, friends.
Welcome back.
It's time for another episode, a Forever Night episode.
The last episode of season 1.
The last episode of season 1. Season 1, episode 22. Love You to Death.
You finally got it.
I did. It took me a really long time, but I finally remembered the name. I think it's because there's so many episodes that have death in the title, and for some reason I kept calling this one Dying to Know You, which of course is the one with the psychic. So I don't know how I was getting those two mixed up. That one was all about the psychic and Nick flying, basically, were the themes of the episode. The theme of this episode is really that women are people.
They're real people with real feelings?
Yes. They are not ambulatory, idealized creatures.
They're not icons of beauty.
Yeah.
To be admired purely. They should be interacted
with no
with
thoughts,
as
feelings,
other human beings.
flaws.
Sovereign individuals.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you mean women have thoughts and feelings and emotions that are entirely independent of how they relate to men?
And they have their own personal agency?
What? This is in complete contrast to 1966, when poor Natalie didn't even get a line. She gets kidnapped, and then the entire time she is roped to a gun, she doesn't get except Nick. And that's it.
Don't worry, Nat. Everything's going to be all right.
And then afterwards, they're all like, meh, she's fine. She's fine. Maybe why is she upset? I don't know. Maybe she's on her period or something. It's weird.
Hey, she never talks about the gunman thing. She must have handled that really well.
And really, this is Natalie's second time going through this because she was also dating a man who tried to kill her. So this isn't even her first rodeo. I'm not even sure it's her second rodeo. Well, it's her second rodeo right now, but it's definitely not her last rodeo. Let's put it that way.
It's not her last rodeo.
Let's put it that way.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, this is a deceptively deep episode. We're throwing a lot of boobs around, so it can be easy to get distracted.
It's extremely distracting.
Right. But we are trying to tackle some pretty big and heavy themes for Nick in this final episode of Forever Night. And I'm going to say this, of course, this is the last one because we end on a cliffhanger, which I totally didn't remember. But definitely 1966 was not the episode that preceded this in filming because Skanky goes from no sideburns back to sideburns in 1966 and then no sideburns in this one. So going by the Skanky Sideburn Index, it should have gone 1966, Fatal Mistake, Love You to Death.
Yep.
Just wanted to clear the air on that one. The fault here lies with Amazon because that's how they have ordered them. And also whoever owns this property and is clearly making no effort to maintain it. So
was it Amazon that ordered it that way, or was that the season 1 production? Are we watching it in the date that it was aired?
No, Meg was saying that the ones that she bought, 1966, came before Fatal Mistake. So in some places they're swapped. In some places it's flip-flops.
It's probably American versus
It could be however they
non-American.
scrape the data. Because remember, they've also mislabeled several episodes too. Like I Will Repay
they
was I Will
mistitled or
Replay.
misdescribed.
Yeah. It's really just whatever source they're getting it from, whatever source they're trolling the information from is
There
not
are conflicting
consistent.
sources.
Well, okay, but we're wandering away from the point here. That's
Just like
Minor
two different
details.
people can see the same thing and derive different conclusions.
right. Which we cover a lot in this episode too. And you know what's really on like full display in this episode is
Boobs.
Yes, boobs, but also also Garrett Wynn Davies is a good actor. He is a Shakespearean actor. So there's a lot of over the topness to some of what he does.
Right. That's part of the campiness.
Yeah, but in this episode, it is working because this is kind of a sad episode for Nick because he is remembering the event that led him to stop, quote, killing people with his teeth 100 years ago. 100 years
This was
ago.
the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, this was a practical joke from Lacroix that didn't go the way Lacroix saw it going. For once.
Lacroix thought this would push Nick over the edge into psychopathy.
And so then they could be
join
best
him.
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're best friends. We have the same mental illness, obviously. I saw a funny meme the other day, and it was like, why are all mental illnesses buy one, get 7 free? And then the note on it was, I didn't even want to buy my first one. My mom made me buy it. And I thought of Lacroix. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't even want that. Lacroix made me buy it. Yeah. So we cover a lot of Nicholas's base motivations in this episode, for sure. And we also get a side of Jeanette that we haven't seen.
Right. We get a lot of depth into Nick and Jeanette's relationship.
Yeah, and we get less, I am just radiating fuck me energy, and more, we had an emotional intimacy that included being vulnerable with each other.
Right. And they are still the only people that they can each be vulnerable with.
Yeah, because in a lot of ways they are tied together intimately, romantically, but also by vampire standards, like genealogically. They both have the same, they both share the same psychopath dad.
Right.
And it doesn't make them related. This doesn't make it incest, but it does give them a common set of trauma that they can come to the table with to have conversations. And that is well played in this episode, for sure, by both Deborah and Garrett. I am not drunk for this one. We did a drunk episode of this one, and it is a Patreon exclusive. And I have to say, it was pretty funny because I didn't remember recording half of it. So I got to go back and listen to it like a first-time listener.
Woo!
Meg really liked it. So anyway, if you wanted to go listen to it, you too could be a Patreon. But we'll talk about that at the end. For now, hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
Welcome to the Strange and Beautiful Book Club. So this episode opens on a crime that has already been committed, which happens sometimes. Sometimes we get the crime in progress.
Yeah, so the opening part is the woman getting cleaned up and dressed.
Yeah, with someone's lighting a candle, sexy music is playing.
It looks like a woman getting herself all dressed up, by candlelight, whatever. Maybe getting ready for a romantic
getting in
liaison.
The mood. Yeah. But she's already dead, and she's getting prepped.
Womp womp. Which we don't find out until.
Did he buy the right makeup? You have to have different makeup for dead people than you do for live people.
Natalie said a mortician would be proud of how well this body was cleaned up and made up.
Yeah, because
he must
it wouldn't
have known.
like it doesn't produce oils and there's nothing to cling to on dead flesh, so you have to have a different type of makeup.
You just mix it with some Mod Podge or something.
Some JB Weld.
It works wonders.
Matt's like, I got plenty of JB Weld. Clear silicone, got that too. But this poor dead model ends up on a bench. And people are playing in the park, and she looks so alive, posed on this bench, that nobody even notices that she's dead until she gets hit with a ball and doesn't react.
She slumps a little.
Yeah.
And then we zoom in on her face and see the white sheen on her eyes.
Yeah, the dead-eyed stare. And then we cut to Nick coming down the stairs, and he checks his mail. And this is an interesting transition because he's flipping through his mail, and he smiles and tosses it. And then we cut to a Classy Intimates catalog being tossed on a table, but it's a table in the precinct, and we zoom back out.
The transitions in this episode are either very subtle or
wildly over the top,
jarringly aggressive.
Kind of like Karen's acting.
Somebody was probably very experimental with the transitions on this episode. And
Definitely.
Some of them worked, like the last one with Jeanette. But then other ones, like his first flashback intro, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. I think it's supposed to feel jarring. I think it's supposed to feel dramatic or traumatic. Like he doesn't want to remember it, but he's being thrown into this memory. So I think it's supposed to stand out to us.
I think in the courtroom one where he was having the
aggressive black and white flashbacks.
What's the word? Almost intrusive.
Yeah.
I think is the word we used. He's having these intrusive flashbacks. And I think the transitions there kind of carried that better than these
to me,
zoom in.
Well, to me, it really
blur.
felt like he was being thrown into this memory.
Yeah.
Like he's being literally pushed into thinking about this woman that he tries not to think about, to the point where Jeanette doesn't even know this memory.
Probably because of how much worse he feels about this woman.
Yeah, because this was the last one that he killed with his teeth. This is the last person that he murdered because he felt it was his right to kill people who were guilty. And
right.
He sees that as his last, greatest failure. And so every time he has to remember it, it is painful. And we get that with these whoosh transitions where the camera zooms at his face. Probably doesn't really, it just zooms in. That'd be really awkward. But we get this he's literally being pushed or forced or thrown into this memory. But this is our subtle transition, which is the catalog on the table. And then the catalog on the table is actually on the police precinct table. And we're zooming out because Stephanie Donovan, who was our murder victim, was a missing person. And these two officers were on her missing persons team, whatever. They were trying to find her. And now that she's a homicide, they have to hand it over to homicide. So this is the handover. Got a slide projector and everything. This is fish. I don't know why the slides include lots of slides of other half-naked women who are not Stephanie Donovan, but it's just part of the spice.
It's because Skanky's there and they know they need to keep him engaged.
We can't keep him with just one naked woman. I mean, look at poor Myra. We got to go through a bunch of naked women. He gets a bunch of funny lines in this scene. It's of course borderline offensive because that's who Skanky is in season 1. But he has this sober take on the Classy Intimates catalog. He's like, yeah, they used to be a little more conservative, but they've gotten really risque these days.
Stephanie Donovan, wasn't that a model or something?
Wasn't she a model or something? Where have you been, Nick? Does Classy Intimates ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, Classy Intimates. The lingerie catalog for discerning tastes.
Well, so goes their motto, but lately they seem to be getting a little bit more risque. I don't know. They used to be more conservative. It's not that they're any less attractive. It's just that they're a little bit more revealing. It's gotten to the point that Myra doesn't even leave the catalogs around the house unless I make it to the mailbox first.
They're like, oh yeah, what about those back catalogs in your locker here? And
Enough
he's like,
to choke a whale.
What, like my belief in last-minute gift-giving preparedness makes me some kind of pervert? I think not. Take it from the married man, Nick. Quickest way to a woman's heart? Buy her underwear that fits.
Underwear that fits.
Underwear that fits. That was a lot.
It's on brand. Okay. Did we
It is very
expect
on brand.
Skanky to react any other way to this news that they were going to be investigating classy intimate model? No. And then they're clicking through more pictures. Like, oh, these are known associates, I guess. But let's show them in their underwear. That's fine. And we land on Lucy Preston. And they're all like, oh, Lucy Preston. Because Nick doesn't know who she is. And Skanky's like, well, you don't even look through the catalog? And he's like, no, but if I knew that you liked it so much, I would have kept it for you. But Lucy Preston looks an awful lot like someone that Nick has seen before. Which she's Lucy Preston here. She's Sylvain in the past. And then this actress comes back for another episode called Faithful Followers. And she's Lucy Sylvain.
But it's a
in that
different
one.
character.
It's a different
right?
character. Yeah, Lucy Sylvain's a different character. I thought, they didn't think we were going to catch that. But I did. But anyway, she's good. She actually has a lot of agency in this episode. We're going to spend a lot of time with Lucy Preston, and I'm always impressed with how much she is fighting for her own life in the 1990s when you really expect her to just be the damsel in distress.
Right. To just be there scared and not knowing what to do, not capable of doing anything for her own benefit, just waiting for someone to come save her.
Yeah. And this is our first instance where we get zoomed into a flashback because we literally just whoosh in on Nick's face and suddenly he's remembering seeing this woman as a ballerina 100 years ago. And she's dancing on the
doppelganger.
stage. Yes. Didn't I say? I said something like, well, you know, over a long enough timeline, you're bound to meet people with the same face. And Matt's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. But that's in the Drunk Forever Night episode. So you'll have to go listen to that one. But he's sitting in this little balcony and he's watching the ballerina. And when we're back looking at him, there's nobody in the box with him. And then when we zoom in on him, Jeanette's in the box with him.
Right. And
because
I
she
thought
just
that was,
pops up.
I think partly that's to portray how much Nick was captivated by Sylvain.
Yeah.
And he was completely oblivious to Jeanette's arrival, in contrast to the possibility that Jeanette was using, vampire speed or whatever.
Yeah.
Which they don't really have.
They have vampire speed.
Well, I know a little bit, but not like, teleport level
No.
speed.
They just kind of whoosh in and whoosh out of places.
Right.
Yeah.
They can move really fast.
You know what?
but
It
it's
reminds
not
me
like,
of Something in the Night Side, where he has that ability to take the bullets out of people's guns, but it's not magic. It's just a trick.
well, yeah, it's like a really stupid simple spell that he knows. But the more information that you have, the more precisely you can use this little party trick.
Right. So it's
Right.
a little party trick, the ability to just pop in because you're taking advantage of someone's distractedness and your own speed
Right.
to simulate the idea that you've just popped into this box.
Right. But yeah, I interpreted it more as Nick is so captivated by this woman that he doesn't notice Jeanette arrives.
Yeah. That, by the way, was Something from the Night Side by Simon R. Green. An excellent book series. Highly recommended. I always say
It's on our list
It's on our list.
of potential books to cover on the pod.
Yeah, we're going to get to it. But if you like noir, over the top noir,
Plus urban fantasy,
yeah,
like good urban fantasy.
good. Very good.
Ooh, like Hearn the Hunter. Ooh, I love that story.
Hearn the Hunter who lives in a box in an alleyway.
Because he's been forgotten. So
Yeah.
he's lost all his status in
Okay,
the pantheon.
this isn't, we
Sorry.
could go forever on Something About the Night Side, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what we were referencing there.
Gotcha.
Everybody, all of you, all 15 of you. But Natalie we cut to the coroner's office, and because that's where Natalie exists, she can exist here and she can exist elsewhere with male permission, but nowhere else. So she's in her little coroner's office and she's talking about how Stephanie Donovan kind of had it good. She's got a belly full of great champagne. She had a really
gourmet
nice
meal.
meal. She has no signs of trauma except for some slight bruising around her lips where she was suffocated. And that's it. And Natalie sounds a little bit jelly. Like, I need a vacation. I just had my boyfriend try to kill me. And then I got roped to a gun and nobody tried to save me. Like, they were trying to save me, kind of, but I certainly didn't feel like a priority. And I need a vacation. Can someone please kidnap me, feed me good champagne?
For 4 months.
For 4 months and take care of me. I thought that was really, because she's like, oh, she had it good. Are you sure she was kidnapped? And that's when Skanky comes in and he's like, Nick, we got places to go. We're headed to a photo shoot.
Hold on. Happy hostage.
Yeah, she said this was a happy hostage.
Oh, I thought that was Skanky's line.
Does he say that?
Yeah, I think it was Skanky that said she was a happy hostage.
Yeah, because she was a happy hostage. But we got to go. We got a photo shoot to go to. Skanky's got...
At a lingerie photo shoot.
Yeah, and Skanky's like, come on, we got to go, Nick. Let's go.
He's jumping. He's
right
ready
now.
to go.
This is urgent business. We got to jump on this. You know, we only got like the first 48 hours to catch this guy or whatever.
This is like when you tell the kids, hey, we're going to Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
I'm already in the car.
But it turns out Chuck E. Cheese in this case is the Raven, because that's where they are having this photo shoot. Ironically. And Natalie says, I'm going to tell Myra. And Skanky's like, sure, she's in Tampa with her mother. So he's free to do what he wants.
I wonder how much the setting of the lingerie shoot at the Raven was to like actually enhance the plot, and how much was, guys, we can use this set.
No, I think somebody
that we already
had
have built
a lot of fun plucking Jeanette out of context and dropping her into new context, because Jeanette, like Natalie, exists in a single set. She is at the Raven, and we've had her at like 2 other locations, and that's it.
Right, and every other time Nick and Skanky have been at the Raven, it's been, what's a good word for it?
Open.
Under the radar, as far as police business.
Yeah, she's
usually
an unofficial source.
Right. Nick is going there because she's a source of information. He needs some advice. He needs the whatever discussion.
A sounding board.
And Skanky's there, and it's always like, Skanky, don't do anything. Don't talk to anybody. Don't get yourself in trouble.
In fact, wait in the
Nothing.
car. Wait in the car, Skanky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this time, this is like the first time that Skanky's been in the Raven on official business.
Yeah.
So now he has permission to be in here. So it's a completely different vibe.
And we get Jeanette out of context
Right.
several times in this episode, which is peak Jeanette. Because as much as I love her in the Raven, and I love all of our interaction in the Raven, I love it when they take a character and put them someplace unexpected and have them act the way they normally do.
Right. She's acting the exact same way, except now.
It highlights how just over the top fabulous
Right.
and ridiculous she is at all times. And the reason she agreed to let them have this photo shoot is because this is for the Christmas catalog. And she couldn't resist the irony of having the Christmas catalog be set in a
Christmas
vampire
lingerie
nightclub.
catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Nick and Jeanette are having like a moment over at this little table that she's hanging out at, because she's just enjoying having all these people here, and she's got new decor, and so she wanted to show it off. And it really looks like some of the faux finishing that I did in the early 2000s, where you would take like a plastic bag and bang it on the wall. And there's like porthole lights, and I imagine this looks really good when it's really dark in there. But with all the lights on, it's really weird because we're never in the Raven with all the lights on.
Right.
Even when he comes during the day when it's closed, there'll be maybe the light over the bar, and that's about it. But everything is floodlit because it's a photo shoot. And we go back into the past because she's asking. She's like, look, did you see that lady over there?
Wow.
Lucy,
Doesn't she look a lot like you know who.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
He's like, I don't want to talk about it.
I'll
But
never talk about it.
so he can't help but think about it. So this is Lacroix talking to him in the booth. So Jeanette was just like, oh, okay. So you like her. That's great. Are you going to go back and talk to her yet? Or have we not worked up the have we not worked up the
I
balls
would
to do
never
that yet?
darken her doorway with the stain of my shadow. Come on, Nick.
Jeanette's like, oh, okay, cool. You know what? I'm going to go do my own thing because I'm not up for pity party tonight. But Lacroix's like, oh, tell me more. Because telling Lacroix that he loves her because of her purity is literally just arming the gun with the bullet he's going to shoot you with. Because Lacroix is like, oh, okay, you love her purity. All right, okay.
Yes, Nicola. Tell me, where exactly are your buttons so I can push all of them?
Do please always enlighten me as to what I need to do to twist this situation to my advantage. So thank you ever so much for telling me all about how you don't feel worthy of her. And yes, this is going to be really good.
Nigel plays this so well because, like, Nick's, bearing himself.
Yeah.
And his true feelings, and Lacroix's eyes just light up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like,
Nigel's selling
yes,
it.
I'm here for this.
And he gets that little smirk, that asshole smirk. Like, oh, yeah. And, we're hard on the writers of this show sometimes. Plot-wise, plot hole-wise, loose end-wise. And it's accurate to a certain extent. Again, we have to put our context lenses on. Standards for plots and writing are not the same as they are now.
The production value isn't there. The viewer's ability to review things and just like meticulously comb the details was not there.
Right. You were just happy to be entertained for an hour. And then next week you hoped you were just as entertained. But you have to give this show credit in that the Nick, Jeanette, Lacroix chemistry is motherfucking on point every time. Every time Nick and Lacroix interact, you know what's coming and you are ready for it, and it's going to be delicious. And it is. And sometimes it's tragic, and sometimes it's hilarious, and sometimes it's sad, but you always believe it. You always believe Lacroix's singular motivation is to highlight to Nicholas his ridiculousness. And sometimes he conveys the lesson he's trying to convey, and sometimes Nick picks an entirely different lesson to glean from Lacroix's bullshitting. And in this case, he's going to get a different lesson than Lacroix hoped he was going to get. And the Nick-Jeanette chemistry is so good. And it is so good in this episode. And Deborah Duchesne is beautiful in this episode. Every time you see her, she has on these gorgeous little outfits, gorgeous hair. I love the characters in this show. That is why I watch these episodes over and over and over again. Regardless of the fact that I can pick up any episode and watch it, I don't have to worry about where it falls in the storyline because there is no storyline. There's just this episode. I can sit with a couple of my favorite people while they go through something for an hour, and then I can turn it off. And the characters are consistent. Their voices are consistent. Their chemistry is consistent. And you have to give the show credit for that. I just want to put that out there.
As long as the character is in the episode.
Yeah, but obviously, as long as they're interacting. But the Nick-Jeanette chemistry, we went off about that in the Drunk Forever Night episode for sure. Because Matt was like, do you think they made Deborah leave because their respective spouses were like,
they toned her down.
Yeah, like your sexual chemistry is just too high. It's too damn high. We got to dial that down. And it really is accentuated in this episode because we get so much of their non-sexual intimacy, their connection that goes beyond just the physical intimacy that they've clearly shared. I mean, not obviously, because I don't think these two actors slept together, but they do such a good job of conveying that these two characters have been together and may not be now, but there's always that possibility that they're going to be together again. And now that we have wandered off down that own personal flashback about why I love Forever Night so much, we'll just whoop, 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 wheel it on back to where we were.
While Pippin bangs your mic.
Yeah, Pippin. We haven't recorded in the living room in a while. And this is why. So while they're on this set and they are, Skanky is ogling all the lingerie models. Nick is trying
Doesn't
to...
he say we should interview all of them?
I'm sure he does. He is a pig in shit right now, is what it is. He's surrounded by women in underwear. And he is legally allowed to go talk to all of them, and they have to talk to him. So he is at his most casual sexism glory that he could possibly be at. But Nick is trying to stay focused. He is breaking the news of Stephanie Donovan to everyone on the set. He tells the manager, he ends up telling Lucy, and he gets a real sweet kind of flirty moment with Lucy. He just spent time I fucking Jeanette. And now he's done doing that. And then he goes off and has this really sweet, cute exchange with Lucy because she thinks he's from Kitten Club magazine, which is like Playboy. And he's like, actually, he just holds up his police badge. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Can we start all over again? And he's like, yeah, I'd really like to start all over again.
Which is personally relevant because she looks exactly like this woman from his flashback.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like
a redemption.
Moment. Yeah.
And he ends up getting her home phone number. He's like, just in case I need to get in contact with you about anything related to the case, even though she admits she wasn't really that close to Stephanie. They just did shoots together. He's like, oh, okay, can I have your phone number? And she's like, oh, yeah, sure. And so she gives him her phone number. And he just holds the card like, she gave me her number. It's really
and
cute.
He looks at this card a couple times reminiscently.
Yeah, and we're getting hit kind of hard with the idea that Lucy is doing this and she's good at it, but she doesn't want to do any more than this. That she's okay being a lingerie model. She's okay selling the underwear, but she's not keen on selling herself.
Right. There's a scene where the photographer is trying to telling her to look more sexy. And she's like, we're not selling like sex here. And he's like,
yeah, we are.
We are.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. And then he says, don't frown or you'll get ugly.
Oh yeah. Don't frown or you will get wrinkles in your forehead like my mother.
Murdich, are you working here? Do you want to work here?
It's a catalog, Max. We're selling underwear.
And you can sell sexy clothes with no sex? I don't think so. Stop frowning. You'll get ugly wrinkles on your forehead like my mother in the nursing home.
Yeah, ugly wrinkles. Ugly. Like this
Dude,
woman could be ugly.
Watch your language.
This woman is 30 years older than she is now. So she's probably 50 now. I guarantee you she's probably still not ugly. She's beautiful. She has fabulous hair, and she does even after she gets kidnapped. I just want to put that out there. And we get another flashback. He gets a lot of flashbacks. We get a lot of kernels of flashback. We just came off an episode that was almost all flashback. And there's far less flashback here, but they come at odd times, and they're very intrusive because we always get whooshed back into the past. And this is him standing outside her dressing room, and she looks up and sees him, and he sees her, and he gets this sweet little like lovesick face, like she sees me and she smiled at me. Did I really deserve to be smiled at? I don't. I'm so dirty.
I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy. And it's so sweet. It's heartbreaking, right? This flashback is heartbreaking. And every single moment where we get him just being innocently amazed that someone doesn't see him as a monster, it's heartbreaking, especially knowing what's coming. Because LaCroix is involved in this. Something shitty is going to happen. because we get lovely, consistent characters, and Lacroix is who he is. And he's going to fuck this up for Nick because this is meaningful to Nick, and so he has to take it away. Like taking away your kid's favorite toy because they're not doing what you tell them to do. Which, by the way, I don't recommend. Just parenting advice 101.
Right. It's by like, here's all the meaningful things to you that are not me. I'm going to take them away. So the only thing left for you to attend to is me.
Yeah.
But then you go choose something else anyway.
Yeah. And these flashbacks are so painful and so intrusive. He actually puts on loud rock music to try to drown it out.
For hours.
Long enough for Skanky to leave 100 messages.
Call 90 times and leave 100 messages. Either Skanky is using hyperbole or Skanky knows the touchtone controls for Nick's answering machine.
Well, look, Skanky has left so many voicemails on Nick's answering machine, he probably does. Plus, he knows Nick's voicemail password. Because he told him in the last episode.
Password.
It's his home voicemail password, too.
Well, of course it is.
Unless it's 1228. You know everything he does ends in 1228. His email address is probably Nicola1228.
It's probably the same as his apartment code.
Yeah. Maybe, although he's changed it a couple of times. Because every once in a while he'd be like, here's my new code, and he'll give it to him. Which I always thought was a weird little thing to add. Like we needed to remember that he had a code. But Lucy gets kidnapped after the Raven. She's just walking out. She's like the star of this apparently well-known
and she walks out into
Victoria's Secret ripoff
an alleyway
by herself. She just leaves at night in the dark by herself.
She doesn't walk out the front door and walk to the parking lot. She walks out the back alleyway.
Yeah. Well, she's parked behind it, but you'd think she'd get somebody to walk with her.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Especially after just finding out.
They said her car was parked behind the Raven.
Yeah, especially after just finding out that someone you work with got kidnapped and murdered. Questionable choices. But Jeanette gets to show up at the police precinct.
Well, Nick was probably suspicious because Nick asks about the normal patrons of the Raven.
Yes.
And she says, oh no, I sent them all away.
I've sent them out to play.
They won't be back until close to dawn.
Yeah.
And so they leave late. They finish the photo shoot very late. And then they found out Lucy disappeared and her car is still behind the Raven. And Nick knows, well, this is when all the normal patrons would be returning to the Raven. Jeanette.
Well, he didn't call Jeanette.
Right. And I don't think he directly suspected Jeanette.
No.
But I think when Jeanette came in, deliberately provoking him, it probably occurred to him, you could have prevented this.
He looks pretty jovial that she's there. He
well,
looks
I mean, of course
amused.
He's happy that she's there.
He's amused because...
But there's still the detective side of him.
It's cute, right? It's like seeing that cool goth chick that you really, really like try to interact in a normal setting and they can't turn it off and it's super, super cute. That's exactly what he looks like.
I'm looking at the cool goth chick that has a hard time interacting in normal situations.
Super, super cute.
Super, super cute.
I also think he's suspicious just because literally this just happened. A model disappeared and then showed up 4 months later dead. So from his perspective, that is repeating itself. And history is repeating itself because immediately after meeting him, something sinister befell this woman. Which is exactly what happened last time too. But Jeanette shows up and I love this scene.
She walks into the police precinct.
I love this scene because she walks in and she's like, oh, Nicola, is this where you work?
So this is where you work. Very interesting decor, yes. But you know, I could send out...
And he's like, oh, hi, Jeanette, what are you doing here? He knows. Deborah Duchesne is not a force that you can unleash on the unsuspecting. You cannot just have Jeanette wander into
He
this
just
precinct.
grabs her by the upper arm. He's like, come with me.
He's like, come on,
walks her down the hallway.
Nobody, just quick, come in here before you have this entire precinct in a tizzy because Deborah Duchesne just walked into the building in this gorgeous little black dress and a panel belt. And he gets her in an interrogation room and she's like, I'm here to pay unpaid parking tickets and pick up young men and stuff. And he's like, no, seriously, what are you doing here? She's like, a model disappeared after modeling at my club. They called me in here to find out if I had anything to do with it. He's like, did you? And she's like, no, Nick, you know I never get to kill humans as often as I want anymore.
Despite how tempting it is.
And Skanky shows up. And she walks over and she's like, Detective Skanky, Nick has succeeded in pounding a confession out of me.
I bet he pounds lots of confessions out of her.
And I have nothing to do with anything. And when she leaves, Skanky's like, Nicola. What is she, Hungarian or something?
Nicola. What is she, Hungarian or something?
Among other things.
I love this scene. And then we cut to Lucy, and we find out that Lucy is imprisoned. And that's really all. She walks around, opens the windows, which this is supposed to be like a posh room. And it looks like sometimes when I'm on Instagram, I stumble across these people that are pretending to be from the 90s as like a bitterly ironic. This is a 90s mom rocking out in her rooster themed kitchen or whatever. And that's what it felt like with the swag curtains over all the windows. It's literally called swag. Don't come at me that I'm using old slang.
No, I was going to say that on a CRT screen, the details would be blurred.
Yeah.
And it may have looked a little more cozy.
And this was all trendy at the time. These were all trending things. The salmon color, the highly patterned swag curtains, all of that would have all been very on trend. And then we end up in another flashback, and Lacroix is giving Nick love advice. He says,
you have 3 options, Nick.
He says, you if you like her, you've really got 3 options. You can try to love her as a human, which that's never going to work. You can... I forget what the second option was. I blurted it out because the third option was just like go in there and take her and do what you
continue
want with her.
on.
Oh, continue
just
on
watching her from a distance.
Staring at her from your box, which sounds like a terrible way to spend eternity. Or you can just act on your passion and take her.
Consummate.
Yeah.
I forget what word he uses.
Your passionate love or whatever, just so you guys can
in
be
the
together
most
forever.
Intense way possible.
Yeah.
Take her.
Yeah, just take her.
Take her, Nicola.
And Nick's like, no, the whole point is that she's perfect. And of course she's perfect. He's never interacted with her. Everything you haven't interacted with doesn't have any flaws. She just watches her on stage perform a show every night. And to him, she is this character. She is this perfect angelic character.
He has only ever seen her portraying the character.
Yeah. And that's what he thinks of her as. And that's what he needs her to be, because he needs her to be this angel, this thing of purity that could never love something as evil as him. And so he can't interact with her because as soon as he does, that illusion
contaminate his image of her.
That illusion will go away. And
it will be sullied.
He can't survive
by reality.
He can't survive that. And Lacroix knows it. And Lacroix is reveling in this because he actually calls her a asshat name for a sex worker. And implies that because of her profession, she supplements her income 1, sometimes 2 at a time. Wow, Lacroix. That was a low thing.
But a very well-aimed deep cut.
Yeah, it was well aimed. It is difficult to hear because of the type of language that he uses.
And when Nick fights back, Nicola, love has made you stronger.
Yeah, Lacroix looks turned on by that, when he slaps them, he's like,
Oh,
ooh, yeah, that's exactly what I want you to do.
I'm so excited, Nick. Let's keep going.
Exactly. He's like, this is working. And so Nick heads home because his night is over and he needs to get home. And Jeanette is waiting for him at home, smoking a cigarette, like leaning on his grand piano when he walks in, like the diva she is. And they get some heavy flirting.
We are both still the children of La Croix. And the threads of that connection have been vibrating lately.
Are you sure you haven't been strumming them yourself?
No. You know what I'd give to have that power still.
And she tells him, no matter what, we are still both the children of La Croix. And that connection is real. And it has been vibrating lately. And Nick says, are you sure you haven't been strumming the strings yourself? And she says, you know what I would give to have that power again. She divorced him.
She strums his strings all the time.
But not in the way she wants to. She doesn't have the same emotional intimacy that they had once and that she wants
She doesn't
back.
have his like exclusive loyalty. Like he's not committed to her as a long-term romantic partner anymore.
Right. And she
A
wants
confidant,
that back.
yes. A
Side piece?
emotional support,
Oh.
yes. Side piece, almost certainly. But they don't actually like
Partner?
live together.
No.
Right. Life partner?
No.
Because Jeanette has completely different priorities from Nick.
Well, they were together.
They were together, but
She left him.
she needed some space.
Yeah, which I could see. But I think she thought that they were going to be able to come together
She probably
again.
thought Nick would be waiting for her when she came back.
And he wasn't. Yeah. But that's okay because his whole life haunts him. So why not that
My
decision
whole life
too?
haunts me.
Because she's trying to draw him out. She says, you got to talk about this stuff. You got to tell me what happened. It must have been really painful for both you and Lacroix because nobody will tell me what happened. And Nick says, yeah, and I'm not gonna because I don't want to talk about it. And she says, well, it will haunt you. And he's like, my whole life haunts me. You got all night? Because I got a lot of shit to unpack, okay? That's a deep suitcase, and I am not rummaging in it tonight. So, thanks,
Until
Jeanette.
their next scene, when he's just standing in the road and she opens the door to the
I
Raven
think
and
he
says,
realizes.
you're ready to talk about it now, aren't you, Nicola?
He's like, yeah, I am now. I just get around
Anyway.
to it. Well, they find Marty dead. Marty is the
photographer.
The photographer. There's a story happening, but it's irrelevant, really, because this is all
Natalie
about...
found some photo processing solution on Stephanie's body.
Yeah.
And
That's later though. This is they find Marty in the dark room.
yeah.
And they think he's killed himself and they find a note.
They find it. So right before this scene, Natalie says, I found vinegar on the body. But it wasn't actually vinegar. It was something like vinegar, photostop.
Yeah.
And then they go to talk to Marty because they're like, oh, she had photo processing solution on her. And we found out that the photographer had a closer relationship with Stephanie than he originally disclosed.
Yeah.
Let's go talk to Marty.
Right.
And they find him dead, ostensibly by hanging, with a suicide note that he killed Stephanie.
It says he killed Stephanie and Lucy.
And Lucy.
Yeah.
And Nick thinks, no,
No.
it's never this easy.
No, I'm not buying it. Whatever shit this note is trying to sell, Nick ain't buying it. Thank you. Because it's too neat. It's such a nice, neat little bow.
Right. All the details are explicitly stated.
Yeah, plus the MO doesn't match. Stephanie was missing for 4 months, well taken care of, and then killed, but coiffed and displayed within
Right.
3 hours of her death.
Lovingly cleaned and made up.
So why kidnap Lucy, kill her, and then just dump her in the lake? It doesn't make any sense. So Nick is not buying it. And we finally find out who the bad guy is because Lucy breaks her mirror, and it's a two-way mirror. And Charlie, who is a aide from the photography shoot that we briefly met when they were
He's
on
the photographer's
set.
assistant.
Yeah. He is the one who's kidnapped Lucy because he needs her to be protected. She is an object to be preserved, and that's what he's going to do.
A pure, beautiful object to be protected from being taken advantage of. Even though we find out when she talks to Nick, she's like, I know you're from Kitten Club magazine, and I haven't made up my mind yet.
Yeah.
But then we find out from Marty's, is it Max or Marty? And anyway,
Yeah.
the photographer had been part of the deal with Kitten Club magazine, and he had backed out of the deal months ago. But Lucy was still pursuing it. Potentially. She hasn't made up her mind yet.
Is that what they imply? Because it seemed like they implied that Max or Marty should have checked your arithmetic, Marty. That the photographer guy was still looking into it, and that he backed out just recently. And
they said he backed out months ago.
The remote's too far away to check this. But regardless, the deal is off. She's not going to be in Kitten Club magazine. And it's really convenient because it seems like somebody didn't want her exploited in that way. And it probably wasn't the guy who stood to make a lot of money from it.
Right. And Nick with his... Okay, so recently, this behavior has received a lot of, more nuanced explanation and terminology of incel.
Yes.
Yeah. Men who objectify women because so incel is involuntarily celibate, and they have this conception that they are desirable, but the women have all been, poisoned against good guys. And if they hadn't been, every woman would want them. And so they have this huge resentment toward women, and they objectify women. You're looking at me like...
No, I'm just waiting for you to continue.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for you to respond.
Oh, I don't think that's applicable. I was waiting to see who you were going to apply that to.
Oh, Nick in the flashback?
Nick in the flashback, it's
and
flipped.
Charlie.
In the flip, it's flipped, though, because Nick thinks that he is the corrupting influence that is going to harm Sylvain. So Sylvain to him is this object on a pedestal. She's a China base.
To him, it's the objectifying the woman and completely avoiding getting to know the woman because it would corrupt that image of the woman.
Definitely objectifying applies. But he doesn't see her as corrupted. He sees her as this incorruptible thing.
That's why he kills her, because that's massive incel energy.
Right. Once he gets convinced by Lacroix, which honest to fucking God, Nick, Lacroix is always lying to you. Approach every situation with the assumption that Lacroix is acting in his own best interest, not yours. Just go, honestly. But he just accepts it because he looks over and he sees two men walking out of her dressing room. And he just assumes that they were there for transactional purposes.
Right. And the timing could not have been better on Lacroix's part.
Almost as if it was planned that way.
Almost as if Lacroix orchestrated this whole scene.
Right. And so Nick...
Which he did.
Which he did, obviously. So Nick goes into the dressing room. And we get another sweet moment where they share this kind of like oh, hi, it's you moment.
Yeah.
Very sweet. But in the whole time, in Nick's mind, this is all a lie. She is playing to him because he is another paying customer. And so what she is saying to him is, the whole time that you have been up there in that box falling in love with me, I have been on that stage falling in love with you. And he doesn't believe her. A, because Lacroix just told him that she's a businesswoman. And B, because he does not believe that she could love him if she was as pure as he thinks she is.
Right.
So he condemns her. He judges her as guilty because she loves him. Because no one who fit the standards that he had applied to her previously could have ever loved something as grotesque and monstrous as him. He doesn't give her any leeway to be a person and to have feelings for him. All he sees is the fact that he doesn't deserve her love, and therefore it must be a lie. But there is one brief moment. He's talking to Jeanette about this. He shows up at Jeanette's place because he just needs to talk about it. And he tells her, the first time that Sylvain said she loved me, I felt worthy. And for a moment, I didn't hate myself.
That was just, she recognized me.
Yeah.
She recognized me.
You must have been very flattered.
No. Her compliment went to a deeper place inside me. For a moment, I thought I was worthy. It was painful, knowing it was all an illusion.
She knew his name because she'd asked about him. And so she says his name, and for a moment, he feels like a person. He feels worthy. He feels like someone who could be loved by this woman. But he thinks it's all a lie. And it just makes it feel like a betrayal. Like she knows what buttons to push, the same way Lacroix knows what buttons to push. And so here is another person in his life who is just manipulating him, the same way Lacroix manipulates him. And so he kills her.
He says, okay, I will take you.
It's like, fine, fuck it. Let's do this. And so he kills her. And Lacroix walks in and he's like,
With his two buddies that just walked out.
yeah, with the two. And he's like, good job, Nick.
We wanted you back.
Knew you had it in you.
It worked. We have our Nicholas back again.
What have you done?
We wanted you back, Nicholas.
She was innocent.
She was in love.
You betrayed me. I hate you.
Good. Hate is a step in the right direction.
And Nick's like, I'm sorry, what?
There's my
There's my boy.
There's my boy.
Good job. And it's sad. Usually Lacroix's moment of triumph, it's been so ridiculous, this journey to get to it, that it's almost comedic. I mean, it's emotional, but at the same time, it's so over the top. But this one hurts.
This one cuts deeper.
This one hurts because he manipulated Nick into killing this woman who made him feel worthy.
A woman who actually was in love with him.
Yeah. With whom he had found a small amount of happiness. And he took it from him. And Nick has been sticking it to Lacroix for the last 100 years.
Right. And
Because-
for the character development arc of saying this was the turning point, they sell it.
Absolutely.
They clinch that sale.
Yeah, you believe it. You believe that this was this was the final straw that highlighted for Nick the hypocrisy of the idea that he had the right to judge anyone as guilty or not guilty. And Jeanette also gets this super poignant line because you have to remember Jeanette's backstory. We don't know Jeanette's backstory quite yet, but I'll clue you in because it's not that big of a spoiler. But Jeanette was a sex worker, an involuntary sex worker. And so she lived a life of desperation in a time when women had no power. And so to hear that Nick condemned this woman just because she wasn't, but because he believed she was conducting business has to hurt. And she says she was just a human woman. She was just a person. She wasn't this teacup. She wasn't this idol. She wasn't this pearl. She wasn't she was just a person. She had the right to have flaws. She had the right to love you, and you had no right to condemn her for that. And Nick says, I needed her to be more than that. I needed her to be the pearl. I needed her to be the perfect thing. And she couldn't be because she was a person.
Right.
But the flaw in that was me, not her. She wasn't guilty. It was me who was. And that's what he says at the end. He goes, I realized the hypocrisy of what I was doing, of condemning people to being guilty or innocent,
Right.
when there's no difference between guilty.
Of only killing guilty people.
Yeah, because there's no difference between innocent and guilty blood. And the only people who are guilty are us. Was me. I murdered her. I took that from her. I took the chance for her. I made her less than human because she couldn't be more than human for me.
Right.
And that was on me. And I walked away from killing, and I haven't done it since with my teeth.
And one thing that added some background for me was when the Qua is kind of psyching Nick up to the, she's not as pure as you think, whatever. He says, this completely fits with your code of the last 300 years of only killing criminals and whatever, people guilty of crimes. I thought, okay, so it's like 400 years, Nick was just full bore, kill people, whatever, monster. And then he had 300 years of only killing criminals. And then he's had 100 years of killing no people with his teeth.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the
Evolution.
stages of evolution of Nick's
He is
character
continuing
development.
to punish the guilty, but he is doing it in a way that he's doing it in a different way. He's doing it as a law enforcement officer, as somebody who finds and punishes guilty people. He doesn't judge them himself.
Okay, yeah. So I heard somebody explain that one of the purposes in society, like culturally, of the justice system is to alleviate the necessity of revenge. So if a crime is committed against me, I don't personally have to get revenge for the damage that was done to me because I give that the responsibility for
That cognitive load.
well
offset.
even the ethical responsibility.
Yeah, you don't have to bear the
of
moral
punishing.
weight of punishment.
And so where like me hunting somebody down and killing somebody for, like killing a family member, that may be the just thing to do. But internally, I don't really know. Did I kill them because it was the right ethical thing to do? Or did I kill them because I wanted to hurt them as much as they hurt me? Was it a selfish desire to like trauma response kind of thing? Or was I actually doing the right thing?
Yeah.
And so one of the purposes of the criminal justice system is to alleviate that responsibility from me and say, we're going to take care of it. You try to go back to your life, recover as much as you can. We will take on the responsibility of making sure that this person was punished.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have the responsibility of making sure that person was punished. And so Nick has taken on that role of being just one piece in this machine that separates the muddy, revengey stuff from the action, the more
Codified.
justice-oriented, codified, ethical way to punish people. And so he gets to help people get to justice in an ethical way. That's actually making the world a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm saying this episode has hidden depths.
This also reminds me of something called the region beta paradox, which is Rachel just slow blinked at me.
It's also because it's like midnight, but do go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the region beta paradox is, let's say you're in a job that's not horrible. You make enough money, but it's not super fulfilling, whatever.
So most jobs.
And so you're not, but it's not like super unpleasant. So you're not really motivated to go find a better job. And so you stay there for a long time before you kind of hit this threshold where it's like, I've had enough.
Job gag reflex.
Okay. Or you're in this job, you hate this job. You're making the same amount of money. You hit that threshold
Way faster.
And, you get a much better job. But comparatively, in the second situation, you're in a much worse situation. But long term, you end up in a much better situation a lot faster. And so the first situation is the region beta, where things aren't bad enough to motivate you to improve your situation. So Nick's region beta was where he's killing criminals. He's in a good enough situation. He has some rules. He can follow them. And he's not feeling too much internal turmoil. And ostensibly, he would just continue acting this way for who knows how long. But then Lacroix comes along and makes the situation way worse. And boom, breakthrough, hit the threshold. To finally start following a higher code of ethics in how he behaves. And so in that way, Lacroix was the agent of
change,
making Nick into a better person.
And don't you think Lacroix fucking hates it?
And
yeah.
Lacroix
I bet he walked
completely resents. He regrets that whole scenario.
Yeah. I bet after all of that, he walked up to Lacroix and was like, I am never killing anyone ever again.
With my teeth.
Suck it, Lacroix. Suck it, Lacroix. And then flew off. Yeah, this was a bitter moment of triumph for Nick. Because he took this thing that Lacroix, I think, envisioned as a way of getting him back and made it into a complete break.
Right. Lacroix was trying to break Nicolas. Sorry. Lacroix was trying to break Nicholas or Nick out of his ethics.
What are you, Hungarian?
Among other things. He was trying to break Nick out of his ethical framework.
Yeah.
To pull him into Lacroix's own ethical framework.
And he did break him out of his ethical framework.
He did break him out of it. He was correct in his expectation that this situation, that Nick giving in to this temptation, this whole scenario that Lacroix had planned out, Lacroix did predict correctly that this would be a critical action in Nick's internal psyche. But it went the opposite way.
It did. Yeah, it really did. And thank goodness, because then we got Forever Night. Thanks, LaClaw. But meanwhile, while Nick is having this revelation and sharing it with Jeanette, Lucy is still imprisoned.
Oh, yeah.
And at
completely
this point,
forgot about Lucy.
Right. And at this point, nobody's looking for her because they think she's at the bottom of the lake. And she is working with what she has. She has picked up some clues from what Charlie has said, and it leads her to believe that something that Stephanie did was incorrect.
Charlie says, Stephanie did not know what I wanted.
Yeah. And she's like, well, Charlie, I know what you want. Why don't you come in? I put on your dress. Let's have dinner together. And she lures him in. And then she's like, okay, come on, let's make love.
Which might have been the same thing Stephanie did.
She's just guessing. And it's a good guess.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
completely reasonable.
Yeah.
This guy kidnapped me, trapped me in a room. He wants to bang me.
She is fighting for her life. If she can at least get him in a position where she can overpower him, which I think she's actually taller than him. He's quite short. Oh, but if she can get him into a position where she can overpower him, she can escape. All she needs to do is get a moment. And the longer she can keep him in there and the more she can get him to do, the more likely it is that she's going to be able to get out. And she's doing a good job of fighting for her life. Except this isn't what he wanted. As soon as she starts talking about having sex, he's out. He needed her to be the object on the shelf, the perfect pearl, the china teacup. He needed her to be the uncorruptible vision of feminine beauty and purity. And as soon as she starts talking about having sex, of course, female sex is shameful and dirty, and therefore she is shameful and dirty. And so he goes to suffocate her with a pillow, and she hits him over the head with a wine glass or the champagne bottle.
Yep.
And manages to get away, which don't ever get in this situation, first of all. But if you do, you scratch your attacker because then you mark them.
And you collect a genetic
and
sample.
You collect DNA under your fingernails.
Dig as deep as you can.
Yeah, just don't end up in this situation. But if you do, remember Rachel told you, scratch the shit out of them. But she leaves, she runs away, and she runs into the woods, and she finds a pitchfork and an axe conveniently located right next to each other. I don't know what the pitchfork was doing. Were they sorting the firewood with the pitchfork after they chopped it? There's no hay anywhere around here. Why is there a pitchfork? This felt like frailty.
I was going to mention that the axe in the stump looked exactly like Otis.
Yeah, we just watched
Frailty.
Frailty, and this really feels like a scene from Frailty when he's given the divine weapons, quote unquote, by God. She's given 2 divine weapons. She can choose the axe or the pitchfork. She chooses the pitchfork, and she just like awkwardly stabs it at Charlie, and he just grabs it and takes it away from her. And he's threatening her with it, and she just climbs up on the stump like she's ready to die. Come on, Lucy, you were doing so good. Get the axe.
Whoosh.
Yeah, of course. She can't get the axe because then Nick can't save her. So Nick shows up, and he ends up breaking the pitchfork in half. And then he's getting menaced with a broken shaft of wood, which feels worse.
For Nick.
Anyway, but he ends up pushing Charlie to the side, and Charlie falls on the pitchfork. And Matt and I were both going, ooh,
Right, because a wound to the gut that is bleeding profusely could cause you to die like that.
Yeah.
But it's stabbed in him. He's not bleeding profusely.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
You can have a stable gut wound for days before you die.
It hit the plot device in his stomach.
That's exactly what it hit. You can see it. There's kind of a block like a 2x4.
Yeah.
Inside of his sweater.
That's the plot device.
That's the plot device.
And it got it. And that killed him. We get our last flashback. And it is Nick. And he looks at LaCroix and he tells him, I hate you. And LaCroix's like, that's fine. You can hate me.
Hate is a step in the right direction.
Hate's good. Hate leads to the dark side. I'm the dark side, bitch. This is where I want you. And Nick's like, that's not how this is going to shake out. And that's the end of our flashback. And then we get our Jeanette transition, which we have had some pretty good transitions throughout this whole season. We had a couple where we were watching the news reporter, and then we were watching the news reporter on TV, and then we were outside the TV and Skanky was turning the TV off. That was a good one. Mm-hmm. And then this one, he's talking to LaCroix.
Right, and then they shift frame.
And then they turn the camera.
They're
they're
in the same room.
Yeah,
And Jeanette's in the frame.
Yeah, Jeanette in modern clothes is standing next to LaCroix. And she says, oh, I never knew any of this. And then we cut to, they're sitting together on the couch.
Right, it's a shot in Nick's living room, and then Jeanette spins around like she had been looking into the past too, and she spins around back to the present and continues her statement about she hadn't known.
Yeah, it was good.
That was a really good transition.
It shook you out of the normal flashback. Just kind of, whoa, what?
Right, because they mixed.
Yeah, it was really good. And then we get Jeanette telling him, I mean, yeah, that's all awful. He was really shitty to you, but you got your revenge. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I did. And he just looks over at the door where the flame scorch marks are still on his
we're
door.
just looking at Nick, but Nick is looking at the door.
Right. And then he remembers. We get a flashback from Dark Knight. And this is really to remind the viewer, because if you had been watching this in real time, this is 22 episodes in. You watched Dark Knight Part 1 and 2 months ago. Months longer.
Close to a year ago.
Yeah. Well, no, because there was the summer break always. But as long ago, almost as long ago as we watched it.
8 months ago.
Yeah. Except for reruns or if there was a sports thing on.
Right. You're going to miss a few weeks. So it's probably been like almost 40 weeks.
Half a year at least.
Yeah.
And you don't remember it. And you can't go back and rewatch it. So they need to give you that little bit of memory unlocked. And it's a flashback to Dark Knight where he is stabbing a flaming stake through LaCroix and pinning him to the door while he burns. And then we pan to outside and we see like a hand with blood dripping down it. And it goes up and there's a vampire biting this guy. And it is LaCroix. And LaCroix's outside Nick's apartment.
Right. Yeah, we look at LaCroix's face, and then we see what LaCroix is looking at, which is Nick's car, which I thought he had a garage.
He does, but we often park it outside.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
So we see LaCroix looking at something, then we look at Nick's car, and then we go back to LaCroix. He's back.
He's back. You know what? I think sometimes Nick comes home for a couple of hours, changes into his satin pajamas, plays a little putt-putt.
Throws some tarot cards around.
Bounces a ball against the door.
Bottles some blood.
Plays some chess during a thunderstorm. Bottles blood. And then he gets back in his car and leaves. So if he's in for the day, he's in his garage. If he's only there for his Euro minutes, he parks outside.
Gotcha. But I don't know where the Euro minutes would have been in this episode.
We got a lot of exterior scenes, just like
I guess
you'd have to remove it piecemeal. Yeah.
Instead of going for like 1 2-minute block, you went for like 10 really short blocks.
This is a pretty tight episode, and we had a couple little scenes where like Skanky breaks off and he goes over and he's talking to a group of models, and he was like, "Come this way, guys. I'm gonna interview you one by one." So we had these little pieces of things we could have taken out. But otherwise, it's a pretty tight episode. I think it's really when, I don't know. I was going to say it's really when there's just nothing you can remove that won't change continuity. It just has to be something you can remove that won't change continuity. It can be other things. It just can't be anything that if you take it out, the episode doesn't make sense.
Right, but earlier in the season, they're so blatant.
They're blatant, absolutely. But this episode, I had no memory of the cliffhanger. I don't know how I retconned my way out of remembering that we had foreshadowing for Lacroix returning. Not even foreshadowing. Lacroix's back.
Well, they did make some foreshadowing when Nick and Jeanette are sitting at the piano and she's talking about this connection and strumming the strings and, you know, you were connected to Lacroix and Lacroix was connected to me and whatever. You know, something is, we're both the children of Lacroix and, we're feeling this
Things
together.
are vibrating. Yeah.
Right. Something is causing Nick to have this strong of a reaction to something that's reminding him of this memory.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit of foreshadowing to maybe Lacroix is still around strumming the strings.
Maybe. Definitely. Yeah, actually, he's back. He's 100% back. And now we're in season 2. So he's absolutely back. And I haven't put up an Instagram poll yet. But we have an Instagram, and I'm going to put a poll up on it about whether you guys would like us to take a short break. Or do you want us to just roll on to? That was a Green Mile reference. Just roll on to the second season. I don't know. I'm happy either way.
Meg, we already know your answer.
I know, but thank you, Meg. You can vote anyway. It's fine. It's fine. But you can find us on Instagram at Strange and Beautiful Book Club. We got up to 130 followers today.
Nice.
Like not cumulatively added, like we're at 130 followers. I feel like, you know what? I hope you guys just love my incremental updates about
We're
our
just celebrating the
Instagram
small
podcast.
wins.
I think it's so much fun. And we do have a website. It's still broken. But if you join the Patreon, I can hire a web developer and we can have a real working website. And the Patreon is also Strange and Beautiful Book Club. And you get to be in the Discord. You can join the $1 tier, which doesn't get you in the Discord. But there is a $5 tier, which is the Night Nights. And you get to listen to our Drunk Forever Night episodes, which we're going to do again because that was tons of fun. And you also get access to the Discord where you can chat with us in real time. We have our recommendations form, which is still active, and you can only get to it from the website, which is broken. So I'm going to figure out another way to get that link to you guys. But you can still go on the website. You can still click on the links. It's just kind of a fun adventure to figure out what you're clicking on.
It's a surprise.
The text and the button colors spontaneously changed to the same color. So you can't tell what you're clicking on. But I don't know. I'm going to figure that out. The recommendation is still there. Or you can just email us a recommendation. I'm at Rachel@strangeandbeautiful.club. Matt is Matt@strangeandbeautiful.club. I set up our YouTube channel today. There's nothing on it, but I put all of our pictures up and I reserved Strange and Beautiful Network. So we will be Strange and Beautiful Network on YouTube very soon. And I will announce when those start coming up. And other than that, that pretty much sums it up.
So remember, sometimes the strangest things are the most beautiful too.
So be who you are and love what you love. Until next time, friends.
Bye.
Poor Nicolas. Tortured by a soul he hasn't got.